Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very senior professional from Manchester, UK, Mr. Tom Paine. Tom, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ashutosh. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Tom is the founder of Tom Paine Life Coaching. He's also a certified life coach. So, Tom, let me start by asking you, after a successful corporate career, what made you become a coach?
That's a good question. So around 2018, I had a really bad kind of episode of burnout, career burnout. So I was losing sleep. I had a real kind of what you call an existential crisis. I was looking around and going, okay, well, is this my purpose? Should I continue to work in this, like you say, kind of high-flying job? So I worked in the recruitment sector for 10 years, and I'd had something like 7 promotions in 8 years, and really gathered momentum in that space. And I suppose I had a choice really to continue within that space or not, or do something different. So I had these questions on one side, which was, can you do something different with your skills? And could you own your own business? And also I was on the other side losing sleep, and I had a really bad imposter syndrome from somebody who was quite confident. I all of a sudden couldn't speak in meetings and had all these problems. So really, you know, the business was born out of my story, I suppose. That's my niche, because I now help many people having the same problems.
Incredible. And you focus more on life coaching. Help me understand how you define life coaching.
Okay, that's a good question. So the first thing to understand is that it's not counseling or psychotherapy, which are more medical professions, whereas coaching is life coaching is more of a solutions focused approach towards goal setting. So what you're doing is you're working with people to get out of the rut, which, so I work with mainly STEM professionals who are experiencing burnout. So you're looking at high performers, highly skilled individuals who are having a career crisis of some description. So what happens in that period of burnout is that we get stuck in the here and now. So we're just trying to survive the day. We're in that kind of fight or flight mode constantly, which is highly stressful. So when you hire a coach or a life coach, that person should be getting you to think forward. What do you actually want to do with your life in the next 12 months, or what does the next month like? You're trying to rewire your brain, I suppose, to think forward, to start achieving again and get moving.
Interesting. And when you look back at your own career, how has your background supported your coaching, your style, and your values?
Oh, okay. So my background. How is my background? I think how it's influenced my coaching is that so I come from a position of obviously everything I do is within the best interests of my clients and what they want to get from the coaching practice. However, my niche is based around those individuals who are like I said before, who are having that career crisis and having real problems with what it is they should be doing, their confidence issues, their belief in themselves. So I suppose my story itself is what drives me to, I suppose, believe that people can change and can make the necessary impact in their own life, and that in turn then gives people confidence in the coaching process, even if they don't have confidence in themselves. So I suppose that shapes my coaching philosophy, just knowing that I have a core belief that people can change and can make significant differences to their own lives for the better, whether that's they have to go and set their own business up, or whether that's they have to really work on how they're talking to themselves. If they're being overly critical with themselves all the time about what I said in that meeting, or that decision I made, or that piece of work isn't perfect. I really know that these things can change with the right tools and techniques, but my belief is that a lot of people don't have those tools and techniques. So that's what they get as part of the coaching coaching relationship, I suppose.
Well said. Well said.
Mm-hmm.
My next question to you, Tom, is that, we are all shaped by different people, who influence us through our lives. As a coach, have you been influenced by any people? And if they have, what kind of influence have they brought, and how has it helped you in your coaching?
Yeah, I used to. So my first ever boss was a guy called Dan Harris, and he used to ask really one simple question when there was a problem. He would just say, "What is it that you want to do?" And it's just it just sparked me into thinking, well, actually, he's not telling me what to do here. Where so many other people you work for are constantly pushing you in one direction. And it gave me the insight that actually what's important here is the question and the power of the question, and the other person thinking through that question and coming to their own conclusions, because that's the power there, that someone's thought of the idea themselves and they can then drive through with that kind of, I suppose, breakthrough. So the power is in the question. So that, I suppose, is that person, for example. But also, I think on the other side of the fence, the people that I've dealt with over the years who didn't have these skills. You look around and like I said before, that the people in my coaching practice at the moment who I work with regularly don't have the right support around them. Okay. They're hiring an external coach because they don't have coaching. So I suppose in that respect, it's working, I suppose, being around cultures which are quite are top down heavy. I suppose it's like a lot of micromanagement involved in the style and the culture and high pressure and all that kind of stuff. I suppose influences. So I suppose the bad as well as the good influences
well
just
said.
as much as each other, I suppose.
Absolutely. And another question I wanted to ask you was that when I started working in 1979, 80, mentoring or coaching was done either by a family elder or by a senior colleague who took a liking for you.
Okay.
Over the last 4 decades, coaching has evolved as a profession, if I may call it, and people are willing to pay for it. I'd love to get your perspective on how has coaching evolved since the time you got involved in it.
Well, I suppose it's a profession now which you can be trained in and you can be certified in. So therefore, there is a method to it and a style to it. And probably what you recognize there, or you reference there, is mentors maybe more so. A mentor will be someone who can maybe teach you and guide you, tell you certain things, go this path instead of that path. That might be worthwhile for you. But again, the problem with that type of work is that somebody else is doing the thinking for you.
Correct.
That's the key difference with coaching. You're doing the thinking for yourself, but someone's facilitating that by questioning, which is enabling you to have deeper personal insights and reflections which you've not previously had. Now, are family members trained to be coaches? No. Wives, husbands, even bosses, leaders, they don't have these skills. Correct. And also sometimes the power is in that you're speaking to somebody who is a third party, who doesn't have that invested interest in you, which is really powerful. So to have that kind of private conversation is massive. So yeah, I suppose the evolution of coaching is probably that more people are aware of what it is and how to do it, and there's more training to become a better coach.
Thank you. Great response. What are some of your own unique perspectives that you bring to a coaching relationship?
Oof, that's a big question. My unique perspective. Well, I definitely think everybody has an inner genius, some skill that they've got which is so natural to them that others people can't replicate as well as they can. And I believe that everyone does have purpose. Everyone has a purpose in their life. And I think this is where the frustration comes when people aren't using those skills or not using that purpose or passions. So I believe, I suppose my unique perspective and an approach is that, I just have this deep belief that people have got something in them that they can really help, and it's fine for most people. If most people are in the situation where they're happy in their careers or happy in their lives, that's fine. But the people I work with are unhappy and restless and want to do something different. So my approach is that there's something in there, and I believe that my job is to help them extract that so they can then become, better individuals, more purpose, etc., etc.
Very interesting. My next question, Tom, relates to culture. You live in a country which is really multicultural. And multicultural could be from the perspective of organizational culture, backgrounds, individual, beliefs, etc., etc. When you work with different types of coachees, how does culture impact your coaching?
That's a good question as well. Yeah, so you're right. I have, I suppose, white British clients. I have clients who are born in the UK but from a Pakistani Islamic background. I've got Indian clients. I have clients in America, Canada, mainland Europe.
Yeah.
So different religions, different faiths, different cultural upbringings, which then form beliefs, and labels as you were growing up, which then impact how you are on a day-to-day basis at work, how you show up. Whether you think, if you're a woman, you may feel like you can't break through the glass ceiling because of certain, cultural aspects that exist. So I suppose all those things are very interesting to me, but I have a very diverse portfolio of people that I work with, like from all those backgrounds I just mentioned there, but everyone's got the same hopes and dreams and wishes and problems. That kind of is the line that passes through all those differences which you kind of mentioned.
Very interesting. Moving on, now this is the world of the millennials and the Gen Zs.
Yeah,
they're getting into positions of influence in the corporate world. And I have a lot of respect for these young leaders because they bring a breath of fresh air. And I'm from the baby boomers generation.
Yes.
My question to you, Tom, is that what are some of the areas these young leaders need to be coached in?
I need to be coached in. Yeah, I don't know if it's the other way around,
Okay.
Because I think you see these new young leaders are very kind of revolutionary in lots of respects. People doing things differently. You've got these trends, the Great Resignation, quiet quitting. This is all being driven by the younger generations.
Correct.
Who want change. And I think the challenge is for more senior level leaders who have been around the block, who've got maybe different values, who are then trying to then keep this new talent happy and in the same job and in the companies, and there's never been, like you said before, I suppose with business owners, there's never been a better time to start your own business, because you can get an Instagram account or a LinkedIn account, call yourself what you want, and start posting videos and have thousands of people engage with you straight away. So you can get off the floor very quickly by yourself if you've got a good product. So I suppose, I don't know. I think that we're going into for the newer generation. It's tough, isn't it? Was your question around coaching? Sorry.
Yeah. So my question was, what are the areas you think young millennial and Gen Z leaders need to be coached in?
Well, I suppose for your audience, the new areas that they need to be coached in particular, it's leveraging social media. I've built my whole business off social media. I worked in sales, and my whole sales training was based around, can you pick up the phone to somebody who you don't know and sell to them, make them like you, build a relationship, create wealth from that. Whereas the work that I'm doing now is a lot more content driven. You're working within an online community. You're sharing a lot more information. You're, like you are doing with this podcast, is a lot more about giving back. And I think there's this huge advantage. This is where the old school approach is different, where it's like, okay, well, let's not share our information with people. Let's make as much money as we can. I think what you're seeing with the new, I suppose, new mold of businesses coming through is that, they're a lot more conscious around things like the environment, around staff welfare, around, okay, well, if you buy this product for us, then we're going to plant a tree. And we've got this great initiative around carbon footprint. People want to spend more money with those types of businesses now. So I suppose for people, I suppose the Gen Z millennials that you're talking about in terms of business startup, I think that's where the opportunity lies.
Very interesting. And my next question is, how long should a coaching relationship be for?
That's good. It's how long it needs to be for. So, okay, so some people come to work with me for 3 months and they're done. However, the majority of people I work with will work with me for 6-7 months as part of a transformation program, and then continue to work with me on a more of a light touch basis on a monthly basis for a lot longer. So I'm coming up to working with people for 2 years at the moment, and they're, there's still a lot of things that they want to go through, and they appreciate that support. So the where you get a lot of benefit from working with a coach over a long period of time is that you continue the momentum that you've built. And if you're working with somebody and you're checking in with somebody, as you know, I'm sure you've worked with coaches before and mentors, that person will remind you of, okay, this is what you said you'd do this last time. And how did you get on with that action? Your goal is to achieve X. How is that going? Is it still the same thing? What that enables is there's an air of accountability, quality of accountability that comes with that. Because that, okay, well, I'm going to go and speak to Tom in 2 weeks, and I said I'd do this, and I've got this project and this goal. You have that kind of follow-up with a coach, which is really important if you want to make those long-term changes. So in answer to your question, yes, it can really benefit some people in a short amount of time, but particularly the transformation and deep personal transformation my clients are looking for tends to need a little bit longer. So maybe you're kind of looking at between 6 and 18 months.
Wonderful. My next question is something that I have often been asked, and I've asked many coaches the same question. How does a client or a coachee evaluate if she or he has a good coach?
Okay. Is that before they hire a coach?
Even while the process is going on. One is before.
Oh, while the process is going on. Okay, while the process is going on. Okay, so what you should be coming away from each session energized. You should be doing most of the talking. Okay. I've coached some people who've previously hired coaches where that person's doing most of the talking. That's not how a coaching session should be going. So you should be having moments of reflection where I see this a lot with the people I work with, where they're going, I'm saying this, I haven't even thought this before, and I'm saying it. It sounds good to say it. Okay, so you're having that. So you want to be having those kind of what coaches term light bulb moments. You want to experience personal growth within the session. So you want to discover something about yourself which you hadn't discovered before. You may look at a particular relationship and you go, okay, well, I kind of see it from that person's point of view now. And you're leaving each session actually, and also with actions where you're excited to go and, complete those actions. I'm excited to go and I'm a bit scared to go and speak to my boss about that pay rise, but now I realize that's what's holding me back. So those kind of things, that empowerment you should be feeling. And if you're not getting that, then you may want to go and hire another coach.
Well said. And the second part is what you were going to answer first. How does one select a coach?
Oh, okay. We'll go back to that one. How does one select a coach? So I definitely think there's many niches, so specialist areas that you can really go into. So you could hire a coach who you wanted to stop smoking. There'll be a coach who can help you stop smoking. If you want to lose weight, or if you're diabetic and you need to lose weight, there'll be a coach who specializes in losing weight for people who suffer from diabetes. So my specialism or my niche is STEM professional suffering career burnout. Okay. And confidence loss and belief loss.
Mm.
So finding that niche, it will be out there. You may need to dive a little bit deeper on LinkedIn and Google and Instagram or wherever, but you will find somebody. The next thing I would do is just make sure you're checking their website for testimonials. So you want to see written testimonials. If somebody's got video, if somebody's got clients who are prepared to go on video and talk to them about how their experience was in detail, that is a good sign. So for me, that's why I get a lot of my clients to do video testimonials, because that's what I would look for. Because I would go, oh, okay, well, you sound good. Even if people are watching this now, they go, I see, sounds good, but what do people have to say about them? And if you can't get that, then that's maybe where you want to kind of sanity check other places, because it is really important that you get the right person for you, that you've got the right chemistry with, that you know that you're going to get the results for your investment, and you want to get it right.
Wonderful. Thank you. And my last question to you, Tom, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your own amazing journey and all the learnings that you've had, what would you say are 3 lessons you would want our viewers and listeners to take away?
Right. Okay. So lessons to take away from this conversation?
From this conversation, from your own learnings as a life coach?
Yeah, I definitely think that I see a lot of hesitancy to start with certain people around coaching because they've never experienced it before.
Yeah.
So this is quite a new, like we talked about before, it's a fairly new field. Should I have a coach? Do I deserve a coach? Are my problems enough for a coach? It is, and they are enough. So if you feel like you need external opinion, that's a great thing. So I suppose my lesson really within this is, I even when I was thinking about setting up my own business, I spoke to family members, spoke to friends, and they didn't give me the answer that I wanted.
Yeah.
They projected their own fears and anxiety on whether you should set a coaching business up, whether you should change a career. And I really feel strongly about, so you have to make sure you're sourcing external opinion when you're going through quite big life changes. So that would probably be one lesson there. Do you need one more? Hopefully that was 2, was it? And yeah, I think I certainly think, I've got clients who are in their late 40s, early 50s, who have worked in industries for a long time and thought and believed that they weren't good enough to do anything else. And they've managed to set up side hustles and businesses, even at the latter stage of their career, which are based around purpose or based around their interests and passions. And it's completely changed their lives. It's not to say that those businesses are going to make millions and millions of pounds, but that side hustle is incredibly powerful. So even if you're a student at university or you're in your first job within a bank or wherever it is, entry-level positions, if you've got ideas, explore them. Use social media to put a message out there, or think about creating a product and see if you can sell it. There's no harm in testing and trialing things, because those things, if you don't do them, you might regret later on.
How wonderful. How wonderful. And on that note, Tom, and your wonderful lessons, get a coach if you need help. There's no need to hesitate. Source external opinion and explore ideas. Thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for talking to me about Tom Paine life coaching, about all the things that you have been doing as a coach. Thank you also for sharing some of your thoughts on how one should look for a coach. How does one get evaluated by a coachee, and so many other things. Thank you again, and good luck.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, Ashutosh.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.